Have you heard of the serpent seers in the Hebrew Bible? Probably not, because it's hard to see in English. I'm Matthew Delaney. Thanks for joining me on Hebrew Bible Insights, where we're trying to make sense of the Hebrew Bible. This will be a fun little Bible study that we can do together. I'm talking about Micah chapter 3, verse 5. There's a very interesting word choice here that the prophet uses, which is really hard to see in English. Ko amar Adonai al hanevi'im hamat'im et ami hanoshchim b'shinehem v'kar'u shalom. We have that God is talking about these hypocritical prophets who are misleading his people, and he says that they cry out for peace, or rather they say peace, whenever they have something in their mouth to bite. So literally the biting ones with their teeth. So most English translations add some words to help make sense of this. My ESV here actually doesn't even have the word bite in it. It's when they have something to eat. Your English translation might have the word bite. Regardless, the word for biting is nashach, which refers specifically to how serpents bite. There's probably a sound play, I think, with this word, because the Hebrew word for snake is nachash. Nachash, and the word for how serpents bite is nashach. It's not the same, the ch sound you're hearing is not the same consonantal letter, but letters that in ancient Hebrew still would have had a somewhat similar sound, even though in ancient Hebrew they had different sounds. Modern Hebrew, chet and kaf, they can both have the same sound. Ancient Hebrew, it may have been more like the distinction we have in Arabic, where the chet would have been more like het, and kaf would be like the chaf. So still we could have nahash and nashach. Regardless, this word is used to describe how serpents bite. And so the imagery here is much more vivid, thinking about prophets who have sunk their teeth into something, but you're imagining it's like a snake has prey in its mouth. And it's just a disgusting image that we think of. And whenever I think about this, it's hard to not go to Jesus, where he calls some of the spiritual leadership broods of vipers. We have this in Matthew 12:34, you brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Same in Matthew 23:33, you serpents, you brood of vipers, how are you able to escape being sentenced to hell? This is where there's a great plot twist with the story of Scripture. Let's think about the gospel here. First part of the gospel is that we are sinners. We are broken. And we can look at a verse like Micah 3:5 and think, there are these corrupt spiritual leaders. The prophets do single out leadership often. They talk about kings and princes, people in political leadership, people in spiritual leadership like prophets or priests. But it's not only leadership who's called out, because sin is not just a leadership problem. It's not just a people in power problem. All of us have this issue in our lives. We see in the story of Cain, we expect Cain to be the one who will crush the serpent's head. Remember, we're told that the seed of woman, the descendant of woman, will crush the serpent's head. Genesis 4 is a story of the woman giving birth to a child named Cain. But he doesn't kill the serpent, he kills his brother. Instead of killing the serpent, he takes the path of the serpent. And ultimately, we all take the path of the serpent. You could say that we are all on our way. We are snakes and serpents of sin. And what Jesus does is he doesn't come to wipe away all of us who have slithered down the path of sin. He gives up his own life for us on the cross so that the serpent, the devil, that Satan, that he would be defeated, that sin and death are destroyed, and that we now are saved from the venom of sin and death. So all this just comes from me from reading Micah 3 verse 5 and making some connections around Scripture. I would love to see, what do you guys think? Have any of you read Micah recently? When you see that there's a serpent imagery in Micah 3 verse 5, does this make you think about anything in the bigger picture story of Micah? Or do you go to any other stories? Post in any of the comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts. And thanks for joining me for this conversation today. You can find us on podcast platforms as well as on social media where we post other types of content. Thanks for joining me in this Bible study today, and I'll see you in the next video.